I think that we have allowed the whole decision. I have to make a decision. I have to do this. I have to do that. I've grown to say I am no longer either or. My life is a spectrum of possibility. And because I am a spectrum of possibility, I live in a both and mentality. Mm-hmm. The only limitation is the expectation you have for yourself.
Today, we're taking a deep dive into the world of decision making when you don't exactly know what the next step is. Our guest on today's episode is a powerhouse, and she hails from Surry County, Virginia, all the way to Spelman College. Then she traveled over to Virginia State University and eventually Harvard University. And what you're going to hear essentially in this episode is that she is remarkable and intentional and purposeful when it comes to making decisions. She's a passionate advocate for HBCUs, a chief operating officer, and a seasoned DEI advocate. She's also the visionary founder of Creative Connect, Inc. She has this flair of creativity, strategy, but also encouraging and equipping leaders to reach their next level. I consider her the epitome of what it means to own your power, to own your purpose, and to thrive as a leader. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the dynamic Kristie King. So, Kristie, I am so excited that you're on the show. We were just talking a little bit earlier about how this is technically our first time meeting each other in person.
In person. Our souls connected day one, though.
I mean, it doesn't feel like it, though. It feels like I feel like I'm searching for the moment that we met, and it's today. So officially in person.
Officially. Yes. Our souls met definitely in the chat.
Literally.
Years ago.
Literally.
A few years ago. And it is an honor, a privilege.
Likewise.
It is a humbling experience to just be in the same space of you. Thank you for creating this. Thank you for reminding us that every day is a day to thrive. And just thank you for being Brittany.
Okay, Kristie, now.
It is what it is.
So I say everybody needs a Kristie because what is wild to me, but shouldn't be, is the fact that we're just meeting in person today. But what people don't know is you have been pushing me literally for the last 3 years, on the phone, in prayer, in the chat, in the private chat of the group chat, just a consistent sister in every way. And I'm just and it's just a testament to what I believe wholeheartedly is when you are in alignment with your divine assignment, God will send you the people that you need. And you have been one of those people. So I just want to say thank you before we even get into this conversation, because the listeners don't know, but I know. And I'm going to try to keep it together. I'm going to try to hold it. I'm going to try to hold it. But I believe this is such a powerful conversation to get your insight on, because you have been one who's been able to make bold decisions without having all of the answers. So let's just unpack this idea of decision making just straight out the gate. When you think about making decisions for your life, making decisions as a leader, making decisions in your career, what really informs you on, is this the right decision to make?
Absolutely. I think what I know for me is, what does my soul say? I've realized that over time that many of us, right? But I'm only going to speak for me. I'm going to use an I statement. I created characters to survive in so many different environments and elements that there came a point in my life where I said, death to survival, Miss Lady. It is time to truly live and thrive in your purpose and your passion. And when they marry, you are on point. And so that allows you to commit to it. It is kind of like your what? Commit to it. The how, the why, all of that will follow When you commit to it, whatever that it is for you, it allows you to make a sound and grounded decision, and your intentions and your actions, they follow suit because your commitment is to it. The funny thing is, sometimes you don't know what that is. It becomes a variable, but your life and your experiences of life, they afford you the opportunity to define what that it is. Mm-hmm. And through that commitment, you yield your success. You yield your victory. You yield your joy. You're like, oh, this is mission aligned. Mm-hmm. This is what you meant in Jeremiah 29:11. Okay, that's the plan. I'm going to go with it. Mm-hmm. You feel it. You know it.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, like, for the person that's like, well, Kristie, I don't know what it is. How do you find it? But I feel like similar to what you were saying, like you know when it's time to shift. Like, I feel like we all can relate to that feeling of like, I don't know what it is, but I know this isn't it. Like, we don't know what the next is, but like this present place, negative. So I know I got to get up out of where I am right now. But like, what would you say to the person that knows that, but they're struggling with what it is so that they can take that step?
Absolutely. I think, I don't know where I heard it from, but it was, if you can do this every day and not get paid for it, it's it. I'm like, hold on. The way Sally Mae,
both hands.
The way, that's my thing. The way Sally Mae is set up, I don't know if I could really just go ahead and do all of these things that I love to do and I get excited about and not get paid for. But then I began to release the limitations that I put on what that could look like for me. And then I began to do it. And then I did it again. And then I did it some more. And then the energy that put behind it yielded the currency. And then people started saying, hey, I actually want to invest in your time, invest in your value, invest in what it is that you are bringing to the table. So be it the media comm side, be it consulting, be it just having some really deep conversations. Don't say no, Say yes. Welcome it. You have to go through a journey. You have to go through a process. It's like when you learned how to do division the long way, right? It took us quite a few times to figure out what to carry, what goes into what. But once you got that process and you continue to do it, you were able to do division. You were able to check for understanding. You were able to move on. And so for me, I believe wholeheartedly, just keep doing it. When you put one foot in front of the other, eventually you want to do another foot. Eventually you want to jog. Eventually you imagine yourself running. It doesn't mean you're going to run. I ain't running. But you just begin to do it. And I had to really release myself from myself, Brittany. Because if I had stayed into the construct that I believed I was at the moment and didn't allow myself to deconstruct the limitations that I put on myself, then my expectation of me would be mediocre. And I'm like, oh, no, Miss Lady. Mm-hmm. I am created in the image of the Most High. I came into this world lacking nothing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What I chose to attach to it then became where I gave my power. So I took my power back.
Yeah, that's that. And that, my friends, is what owning your power looks like. You just said so much. And I already knew, like, I don't even know I have these in my hand because we're just going to talk like we always talk. So you talked about the limitations and these stories even that we tell ourselves about who we are. Talk to us a little bit about, in your journey of unpacking those identities, what informs them in the first place? Like, how do you get to a place where you're taking on an identity that is out of alignment with how you were divinely designed?
ACEs. I'm gonna give you a word. I think I'm sure there's some therapists in the audience. Your adverse child experiences are some of the most influential experiences that begin to have you thinking and believing, right? And as you grow older, you learn the word trauma. You learn the word trigger. You learn all of these different things that at times allow you to reflect, reconnect, heal, right? Because, I believe healing is not finite. Every level you get to something that could trigger you, and it makes you be like, take a pause, right? Before you can play again. And when you go through those moments, like you vacillate, you volley, you like, come on, pendulum, stop swinging. Like, I just wanna be. And for me, that's what happened, right? I just started thinking about some things. Elementary school, middle school, high school, even college. I was fortunate to attend the number one HBCU in the country, still standing, Spelman College. And it was very interesting because when I entered the gates, I was like, oh, this is going to be fantastic. But I was hit with so many different experiences that not only did it humble me, but it halted me. And it halted me in a way that it was like, okay, who are you choosing to be and who are you creating? Right? And I was like, we're not going to do this. So I stayed true to myself. Authenticity came to me at a very early age because I realized I couldn't do too much when I wasn't doing enough for myself. It's a feeling. It is a genuine feeling inside when you know you're not moving the way that you need to move. And oftentimes we as people, and oftentimes even in myself, I feel it, but it's like I'm not trusting it. And then I finally got to a place where it's like, I'm going to trust me, because those little lines and dashes from the time I was born to the time that I am no longer needed in the presence of the earth, I don't have a calculation of that. So how do I maximize my presence? How I maximize my impact? How do I maximize my purpose and my place in the earth? I got to show up. I got to just be. Everything that I say behind be, that is who I am. Everything that I say behind I am, that is what I believe. And even if you have to continuously say those things to yourself in the mirror every day, all day, a few times a day, in between calls, it is what it is, Brittany. I think that we have allowed the whole decision. I have to make a decision. I have to do this. I have to do that. I've grown to say I am no longer either or. My life is a spectrum of possibility. And because I am a spectrum of possibility, I live in a both and mentality. The only limitation is the expectation you have for yourself.
That is so good. And I'm sitting here thinking about, you mentioned trusting yourself. And I think especially for the women that are listening into the conversation, I know that I see it, whether it's in our coaching programs, whether it's in consulting women who are executive leaders, whether it's in conversations with women who have started businesses. That is the number one struggle, particularly of most women who have accomplished some level of success. It's like we've been conditioned to question our own instincts. So while we put trust in a lot of other things, whether it's trusting in our achievements, trusting in our credentials, even our faith, we don't trust ourselves. And so as a woman, and particularly as a Black woman, talk to us about that journey of trusting Kristie.
We got time? Okay.
We got time.
Trusting Kristie. Trusting Kristie is a journey. Kristie is still learning how to trust Kristie in this iteration of life. But I think 3-year-old Kristie, I think 10-year-old Kristie, I think 13, my mama got me real good. I think the 13-year-old Kristie, I think 16-year-old Kristie, I think 20, 25, every point in my life where I can think of something, I have to give gratitude. I'm not saying it always feels good, but had it not been for that lesson to leverage to get me to my next, then I wouldn't be here. So there was elements of trust that had to grow. It had to be strengthened, and it had to be strengthened through grounding and understanding what grounding looks like for me, understanding what faith looks like to me. I know what they taught me in church, but the thing about it is, was I really living it? Did I really believe it? And the reality of it is, the truth is, I did not believe it until I came to an intersection where I had to believe it. And that's when I began to trust myself. I used to hide behind my accolades. I hid behind intellectual acumen. And then it was like, Kristie, you are who you are. Take it or leave it. Mary says it very well. Take me as I am. One of my favorite songs, or have nothing at all. Yeah. All of the isms that people attempted to attach to me, that's on you. And you have to get to that point. And I think it's hard for us at times because we take a lot of different routes in our life journey, right? Corporate, entrepreneurship, corporate and entrepreneurship. A moment where we just said, I want to do nothing and figure it out. Do that, sis. Mm-hmm. Rest is resistance. And sometimes you have to take a pause for you. You have to understand, and I think this is from Dr. A. No does not mean that it does not happen. It just means that it is a necessary order for things to happen in your life because his promise is always yes and amen. Mm-hmm. So trust what you know and trust what you don't know because you get to lead into where you belong. Anything that's for you, it's going to be for you. Yeah. And I didn't always have this mentality, Brittany. We've had conversations, but I've grown to know that in the end, everything will work out as it should.
Yeah. What would you say to the woman that's listening who may feel some type of shame or guilt because she feels like she should have made a different decision in the past that would have created a different experience than the one she's living in today? She's ready for a change, but she can't move forward because she's looking back at the quote unquote mistake that she made in the quote unquote wrong decision that has her in the present place. What would you say to encourage that woman?
Sis.
You about to get a Kristie call.
Good sis. You got a minute? This is actually because I'm keeping it 1,000%. My therapist, a couple of them gave me the same activity. I wrote myself a letter. Mm-hmm. I would tell her, I want you to share everything it is that you want to share. Because sometimes we get in these conversations, oh, girl, I'll tell you. You tell me what you want me to know. But when you get to sit with yourself and create that atmosphere, be it a candle, be it crime mob, Nuck If You Buck, be it Kawapale Closer, be it Timothy Wright, Trouble Don't Last Always, find your space, create your home, and write a letter to yourself. But you have to give gratitude for that step you didn't take. Mm-hmm. You have to, because if you don't, then you will allow it to consume you. Once you give the gratitude, then it's like a weight that's lifted off of you. It really, really is. And then you begin to see how your possibilities never stopped coming because you begin to limit yourself if you stay stuck. We are not designed to stay stuck. Yeah. You choosing you is a choice. You not choosing you is a choice. Yeah. So who is it that you choose? You can't choose what happened 10 years ago, but you can choose what happens to you today, in that moment, and where you will go tomorrow. Not what you want to do. Oh, maybe, I'm quick to tell you, say it again. If what? You mean when? Because when you begin to change your speech, you change the actions and behaviors that come after your speech. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying that because I know that to be true. When I stop saying, well, if, maybe, and I start saying, when whoever you believe in, I call him Jesus, my God, he comes in and he rocks the boat and he sets it in motion. And then he will remind you, you asked me for this. Walk in your purpose, step into your power, own your position, and go. So I would tell her to write herself a letter, give gratitude for where she is, release that notion of her missing something, and embrace the opportunity to take her power back and move prowess.
Hey Thriver, I'm excited for you to get your hands on your copy of The Blueprint to More Visibility and Influence. This is a powerful free resource that's designed to catapult your influence and amplify your impact. in your business or company. Now, this isn't just another online guide. This is your strategic companion that's going to walk you through the world of personal branding and authentic leadership. Inside, you'll unlock essential strategies that are going to help you do a few things. One, sharpen your self-awareness and own your unique story. Navigate the complexities of workplace dynamics with more confidence. Elevate your presence in any room and ensure that you are not only seen, but also heard and valued. Why wait for opportunities when you can create them? With this blueprint, you'll learn how to cultivate a personal brand that commands respect and opens the door for new opportunities. And the best part, you'll start seeing the world differently, not just as a place where you fit in, but one where you stand out. You'll transform your self-doubt into more self-assurance and turn your aspirations into tangible achievements. So join me in our community of thrivers who are making their mark. Don't let this moment pass you by. Head on over to letsThriveTogether.com to download your free copy of the blueprint to more visibility and influence today. Start your journey and let's thrive together. Yeah, I'm so glad that you spoke to that, because I think it's important that we create space for that conversation. And you know this, we've talked about this, but I think sometimes we don't associate those feelings with grief, and that's exactly what it is. Like, career grief is real. And so, I mean, that woman was me. Like, I was grappling in 2014 with a decision that I made that in my mind I knew was best for my family. It's like, engaged, 7 weeks from getting married, new job in New York, husband gets into goes what a business school. He's living in Nashville. I'm living in Chattanooga. The job is in New York. Emory is in Atlanta. What are you going to do? I turned the job down and I grieved that decision for over a year, but didn't call it that, right? Felt all of these feelings about the decision that I thought I should have made, which led to me shrinking, which is what you described. It's like I wasn't showing up fully. I was too caught up in, oh, I should have done this or I should have done that. And it wasn't until I said, okay, Brittany, let's be grateful that you even had the opportunity. The first time that you ever interviewed for a marketing role, you got it on one of the biggest pharmaceutical brands to ever hit the market. It was Viagra. So have gratitude for that opportunity. You decided not to take it. It's caused some disruption, but then are you going to choose you? And I had to say, yeah, I'm going to own my narrative. And what came on the other side of that decision was something that was way better than the first original role. So for anyone that's listening,
you need to get my good girlfriend's book. It is one of the best books that I actually have two copies. It's called Thrive Through It.
Oh, get out of here.
It's called Thrive Through It. And the author, her name is Brittany Cole. You want me to tell you about? I'm going to tell you about her.
No, you don't have to tell me.
But I am. And she talks about empathy, having empathy. And she ripped me apart because I was like, oh, I'm good with this. I got my notes for this. But when she got to that chapter about empathy, I realized that I gave everybody else empathy, but I served myself apathy. And I said, no, Miss Girl. Mm-hmm. Because Brittany said in her book that you have to have those conversations, not only with people, but have those conversations with yourself. Mm-hmm. So that would be my postcard to Miss Girl after she writes her letter. So I would, you should read it.
Oh, got it. Noted. Tell us a little bit, Kristie, about your career journey. So you've been a DEI advocate, practitioner, leader, an entrepreneur, founder. Now you sit in the C-suite as a chief operating officer. Just tell us about the journey.
Whew. That's me, right?
That's you.
Oh, wow.
That's you.
Good. So I started out in financial consulting with a very valuable finance company. And I earned the opportunity to do a rotational management program at like 21. And it allowed me to travel to different states, Kalispell, Montana, Dallas, Texas, Chicago, all of these different places. And I loved it. I learned a lot. I invested quite a few years there. Still have wonderful relationships with a lot of my managers who taught me what a poker face was, because they said, girl, you do not have it. Because I'd be like, what was said? Run that back? She's like, you can't talk like that. Who can't? that was my introduction to affinity groups, which has crescendoed to DEI. So that was really, really amazing. I learned a lot of core principles of leadership. I learned how to transfer a lot of conversations into action. I learned process. I earned great certifications on their behalf. And then I came to a point when we were doing some community service surrounding financial literacy in a high school. And there were young people who looked like me who did not know what a checkbook was, did not know anything surrounding finance. So, I had earned my MBA by then, and I was just like, what do you mean? You're about to go to college. They will get you with all of those credit card offers. You don't want to be in debt twice if you have loans and not scholarships. So that just sat with me, and it gave me the feeling. Mm-hmm. It gave me the feeling. Now, imagine, Brittany, you're 25, 26 years old, making a good 70, 80 grand. And you're like, this ain't it. I gotta get my babies together. I gotta get the young people together. I need to reimagine what this looks like. And I'll never forget, my senior principal was like, you wanna do what? You are in a fantastic position. Mm-hmm. You're in a fantastic position. What do you mean you wanna do something different? And I was like, I'm gonna do something different. This is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to go teach. So I applied to a phenomenal program, Teach for America, and I got in. But I thought I was going to stay in Dallas. So I was like, I have the life here. And they said, oh, welcome to the core. You're moving to Chicago. I said, who? Chicago. Shekinah glory. And so I moved to Chicago, and to be honest, teaching was one of the most empowering, humbling, transformative, stretch goals for me. You usually have a 2-year commitment. I didn't leave Chicago until like 6 years later. I moved around teaching leadership, went to another school in Boston, left there, became a principal, became an assistant principal, worked in HR for a district. And it was just so exciting because I began to see how systemic inequities really affected our children. I began to understand and unpack how social justice and environmental justice are things that we speak upon, but we don't necessarily execute or attribute any type of movement, right? And how it affected truly the educational system. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I'm gonna give some more time here. Like, we gotta figure this out. And God said, it's time to move. I said, God, you got me out here looking like a gypsy now. It's gonna look like I don't know what I'm doing when somebody looks at my resume. What do you mean it's time to shift? It's time to pivot. It's time to shift and it's time to pivot. And I was just like, no, it's not. And that's what I said under my breath, but I think he heard it because it forced me to actually shift and pivot into a role that I'm in now as a chief operating officer, where I am running the largest environmental justice program in the country. So at this point in my life, everything that I've loved doing is now at the crux. It is literally in my lap. I am building curriculum, creating design, leveraging what I've learned through diversity, equity, inclusion. I am teaching and presenting the opportunities for people to balance equanimity in their lives, both personal and professional. And I have an amazing team in Houston, Los Angeles, Atlanta, Fresno, Las Vegas. And it's like, whoo, little black girl, you doing this.
You're doing it.
You're doing this.
You're doing it. It's you.
And we're doing this.
Yeah.
And we're doing it well. And we are effectuating a change where it is now conversations that are ongoing. Mm-hmm. And they're asking why. Oh, glad you asked. Here are your stats. This is what we need. Mm-hmm. And we are breaking generational curses and constructing generational cycles of excellence. And that's what I love.
Powerful, powerful. Along that journey, as you said yes to you and moved through education, corporate, and now sitting in the C-suite, what are the top 2 things or people that you've had to say no to that have been the toughest in order to say yes to your best and be where you are today?
Ooh, let's see.
Because we say that, we throw that out there like, oh, they're trade-offs, right? You say yes to this, it means you're saying no to this. What's the opportunity cost of your yes over here? So it's like those things are real. I don't know that we always talk about what's on the opposite end of the yes, particularly when you're in more senior levels of leadership. Like, what are you saying no to?
Absolutely.
By being in that seat?
Well, I'm very honest, authentic, open, 100%. So I tell people all the time, you want the truth, you might want to ask
Not
her.
ask you, right?
And don't ask me. I'm going to tell you like it is. I think the biggest thing, one of my major no's was I was presented with an opportunity to travel the world and speak to school leaders. So under that fan, you have instructional coaches, you have lead teachers, you have principals, and encourage them and empower them and talk about what it takes to really marry social emotional learning with the social economic challenges that you may have in less resourced areas. Mm-hmm. And if you know me, that was like, this is my jam. I love it. And I was presented with that opportunity. And then I was presented with this opportunity. And I was like, my heart's vocation. And I literally had to pray. I did what I think I made this fast up. It's called the Esther fast. This is what I call it because Esther is one of my favorite books.
You definitely made that fast.
I made it up. For 3 days, I said, it is such a time as this because I'm like, Daniel, I got to eat. But Esther, I can. I'm created for such a time as this. Lord, give me clarity and show me. And I was like, I had Venn diagrams. I had charts, Brittany. Mm-hmm. I was pulling out all of the processes from like this stuff we pull out in B school to make it make sense. Mm-hmm. And then one morning I got up and I read about the company that I was going to work for. I read about the woman. Then about a couple of hours later, I got a phone call from the woman that started the company that I worked for. And she was like, okay, I want to meet you. And the man that hired me was like, okay, we got to go to Houston. I was like, when? He was like, in like 2 days. I said, no problem. And so when I sat there and I heard her story and I heard why she created this company and why she does what she does, that was when I knew that it was what I wanted to continue because she's like, I'm retiring. I'm going to leave this to you all young people because he ended up acquiring it and bought the company. Mm-hmm. But we're still executing and living out her dream as I said 2.0. We're like the 2.0 version. So that was very hard for me because anybody that knows me about education, I love my kids. Mm-hmm. Even to this moment, I've went to their graduations, their proms, trunk parties, back and forth from Chicago when they call me. It's crazy. So that was my one. And I'm not going to lie to you. It's not been anything else. Mm-hmm. Because where I've come to now in my life is that any no for me has truly been a necessary order of his plan and his timing for me. And me choosing myself by saying, I'm going to cut the phone off at this time. I'm going to create a boundary for this. I'm going to say yes to even the things that I may not quite understand, but I know that it's mission aligned. It is truly, Brittany, outpaced, outpowered anything else that could have possibly been not in alignment. Mm-hmm. So the only thing that I can honestly say to you that I just was like, was traveling the world talking to principals about children. But now I get to sit on the other side where I can influence policy. I can create case studies. I can show how the inequities of education come from more than one source. Mm-hmm. What is it that we're actually doing in the communities? These children have food deserts in their communities, so their families are forced to do other things. What are you doing actually, city? What are you doing actually, ombudsman? What you doing? Right? Mm-hmm. Those are the conversations that I have now. And we get to see how that change effectuates. We get to see how that change shifts. Just small things. We have like 10 back to school initiatives happening over the next couple of days in different wards in multiple places. Yes, it's the same ward. Yes, it's multiple places, but you have to think about the access. If the public transportation is only coming up until one point, and then you have people walking 2 and 3 miles in 100-degree weather, make it make sense. So we're going to bring it to them, and we're going to continue to fight for them, and we're going to continue to bolster what it means to vote and why it's super important in those particular areas.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're still getting to do those things, but it's on a different scale. It sounds like it's with more influence, greater impact, and you're still staying true to purpose.
Absolutely. That's the only way to be.
Amazing. So as we wrap up here, I want to know from you, I really want to know 2 things. So I'm going to sneak this one in here because I want to be intentional about speaking to the listener that is really in that place. She's like, okay, Kristie, this has been helpful for me. You've really helped me to recognize that I need to tap into that feeling. I need to know that it's okay. Like I sometimes have conversations with women about how desire is not a dirty word. Like, what you want is okay. There's space for that. Like this entire conversation in my mind is about really emotional intelligence. Like, are you aware enough about self to know that like, oh, I'm getting that feeling. It's about this area, and it's okay to feel that and lean into it and then allow that to be what helps you to make decisions. So what would you say to inspire that woman to take the next step, to move in alignment with that feeling that is starting to maybe conjure up in her belly right now? She's listened to this episode like, oh, I know what that thing is for me, but I'm looking around and I can't make it make sense.
Absolutely. I would tell her to look in the mirror and ask yourself why. Repeat why until it becomes such a burning desire that tears fall from your eyes. You feel it physically shift something inside of your body, and it becomes so forceful and intentional that you are compelled to move toward it. You are towards it. You are compelled to move in it. You are compelled to move. You are compelled to say to yourself, you know what? I'm actually not an introvert. I'm actually afraid to move because someone disappointed me by telling me what I couldn't be. I'm actually afraid of the visibility that this may cause because people have already kind of conditioned me to believe who I should become. I would say to her, that is not your why. Your why is everything on the other side of the fear that you've conjured up in yourself to believe to be true. Who are you? Why? Who are you? Why? Like literally these conversations in the mirror when we're trying to get the curls together and we're trying to get the wrap together, situate the wig, you have to ask yourself, who am I? Until you feel that physical feeling inside of your body tremble, and then you pay attention to that. And then you run and you write it down or write it with your lipstick on your mirror and you commit to that. You have to reflect. You have to recalibrate. And you have to reset your focus on what it is that you want. Because so many times we believe that our lives have been prescribed based off what everybody else expected us to be, that we didn't allow ourselves to actually be. So we've lived so much of our lives being all of these things. Mm-hmm. And then when we finally get to the place where, okay, I'm just going to do what I want to do, we believe that we don't have enough time. Time is truly something you can't get back. But what you do with the time that you have maximizes your presence, it maximizes your power, and it maximizes your impact. So I would say, baby girl, look in the mirror. Who are you? And keep asking yourself that until you feel compelled to move. And then you ask yourself why. And as you ask yourself why, you commit to it. And the how will bring itself in full disclosure.
Every time. Okay,
time.
now for real, before we wrap, I'm not going to be like a Baptist preacher over here, but for real, this is the last thing. What does thriving mean to you?
Thriving, it means full bloom, intention, security, life. I'm about to get this.
Listen.
This bag, this man, this
These
woman,
babies.
whatever your preference is. I'm about to get whatever it is that I believe belongs to me.
Yes.
I'm going to thrive to it because I've already lived through it. So I deserve it. And everything I deserve, I'm going to get. Thrive just means to live your life in bloom without restrictions, without conjuring up anything that doesn't align to what it is that you want to have. My girl, did I tell you about my girl's book? It says thrive
Get out of
through
here.
it.
Kristie King, thank you so much for being on the show.
You are welcome. Thank you
Such
for having me,
a
Brittany.
joy. You are
Thank you for
such a
having
joy.
me.
Thank you.
Absolutely.